Nice. And we're back. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
No worries. Welcome to the All I Need Clubhouse. That's what we've been calling it.
It's awesome. This is a cool spot. It's definitely very comfy in here, you know?
Hell yeah.
And like the smell of the wood, just like
It's cool.
It makes me want to go skate right now, you know?
Fuck yeah. Yeah, like we were talking right before we started recording, it was a big step to be able to move All I Need out of someone else's warehouse and put it into our own building, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It feels awesome to like not have that worry about, you know, we were extending our space and I was outgrowing the area and they were kind of like getting pissed at me. So it worked out good that we were able to do this, you know?
I mean, absolutely. And on top of it, like you're able to keep everything close by, right? So especially having the kid, like we were saying, like now you got everything right here at your fingertips.
Yeah, and you have one, or do you have more?
Just one.
Well, 6 you were saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, she's gonna be 7 in March. So,
that's so wild,
it's just
dude.
like we said. I mean, I blinked and all of a sudden she's this little thing. Like not even little, like tall, up to like my already up to close to my shoulders. Like it's unbelievable.
I can't even. Wow, there's gonna be one next month, which is such a trip. So
yep. And just wait until they get that spark in their eye when they start skating. Like my daughter was kind of like in between it, or like, I guess the only way to describe it is she was like, I guess hesitant, wanted to be really good because of all the skate videos we'd watch. So like she'd get frustrated with it and then go to her scooter.
yeah.
And then one day we were just outside and then I'm like, I'm going outside, hon. You want to come out? She's like, okay. And then she grabbed her board and then it was like, boom, her eyes lit up because she was able to do a kick turn and then she was able to push and not fall off. And it was like, there it is. That's that initial like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, we all had that moment, right?
Yeah. What age did you have her on a board?
So I tried to, I'm very young, like 2, 3 is like when she could walk, I was like, here's a skateboard, but she didn't pay much attention to it. And I was like, that's okay. I'm not going to force anything on you.
Yeah.
But then
that's
now,
a good move.
Yeah. And it just like came back and I was like, you know what? If she's going to be the scooter kid at a skate park, I'm just happy that she's with me at the park. You know?
True.
But
it's easy to make fun of that, but realistically, as long as they're rolling,
yep, exactly.
you know, they're like out there having fun, their heart's beating, they're probably breaking a sweat.
That's it. Yeah. You know, and she's in the environment, she's around the culture, and that's like the most important thing, right? Because like you and I both know from skateboarding, it's like everybody knows everybody. It's all walks of life. It's such a beautiful thing, and like so many relationships we've built over the years came from skateboarding and like just that sense of community, you know? It doesn't matter how good or bad you are because at the end you're on a board, right?
And it's so true. I love New England.
100%.
Because it's we truly have an amazing skate community.
Yes.
Like you could go to any park and you're going to run into friends that you know from somewhere and just make friends, and it's unbelievable where we live.
Seriously.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, to be honest.
Absolutely not. And we get to deal with the seasons, right? So like that compared to like someone out west, we'll say, we got that New England weather. So we have to like either bundle up to go out in the frigid cold like for a number of months every year, or we are confined to an indoor park. But that's also where being limited with the indoor parks, that's where you end up running into everybody anyway, you know?
Yeah, the edge in the winter is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's big enough. A lot of places don't have, they're not as lucky to have like a 30,000 square foot indoor park.
Yep.
But you go there and you could run into people from New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, like 4 or 5 different states in one day.
Yep.
Just at that park.
Oh,
and in the
awesome.
winter, it's a fucking lifesaver.
It's seriously,
Yeah.
it keeps our legs up there, right? It keeps us moving, and that's what matters. So.
Dude, yeah. We've been working on, we've been working on full lengths with All I Need recently, and I've been teaching like Jensen and Anders and some of the younger dudes how to film a part, and they've been learning how to like go out in the streets, destroy their body, get the clip, then rehab, you know?
Yep.
And I can already see their brains turning like about winter and thinking about edge and all the tricks they can learn, and then take them from the edge out into the street. They're already like talking to me about, this winter I'm just going to like train and get tons of tricks and take them to the street in the spring, you know?
Yep. That's how we used to do it at Rad. And then back in the day, it was because I lived at Rad. Like John will tell you, the old owner, I would go there with like nothing in my pocket. He's like, hey, clean the park and you can skate. So it was like every single day I was there, but I would take what I learned there, like especially like when I was doing stairs, and I'd bring it to the street by the spring or summer. Even before that, when it was what was it? Not Subliminal, but the company that owned it before, it was like MSC in Shrewsbury.
Oh, was it Skaters Paradise?
Skaters Paradise.
Yeah.
Then it turned to MSC, and then finally Subliminal before they closed. But that was another park. That was like the biggest park where we lived in my area. So.
Yeah. Describe Rad to people that might not know what it was like.
So Rad was always changing. It was one of those skate parks where you went there 1 month and it was one way, and then you'd go to the next month and it was another way.
Yeah.
And the environment there was, I mean, the owners, John and Bob, were like the originals that opened it all up. And honestly, it was like family from the second you walked in. Nobody was judgmental whatsoever. It was like they wanted to see you progress. They would amp you up, and like if like say you went there, like I was saying, you couldn't afford it, they were like one of those people who was like, oh, get me back next week, or do something around the park to earn your keep here.
That's rad.
But I mean, I loved the support that you got from that place, and it was another like middle ground for a lot of like New England skaters, because like people were coming from like New Hampshire and Vermont sometimes, and they would all meet there because it was like kind of northern central Mass, right?
Yep.
So it was great. I
Wasn't
mean,
it covered with graffiti too?
oh yeah, everybody's
Wall to
local.
wall, right?
Everybody's had
Yeah.
local art there. Graffiti artists would come through and just paint something beautiful, and like it was a colorful park. I mean, I'm sure you remember. It was like
Yeah.
you had like pinks and greens and like all these bright colors. It was unbelievable.
You walked in and you felt like you're in like was it like Peter Pan, like when with all the
Yeah,
Lost Boys and
yep.
they're all in this crazy clubhouse thing? And
Yep.
like, it felt like a different world when you went in there.
Yeah, and on top of it, it looked great when you were filming because it was like so bright. If you could get the editing down right, everything looks so vibrant with the
Yeah.
clips. So.
I only went there like maybe 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
It was a little further out, and I was always so close to Edge. It's hard for me to like venture out. But
Yeah.
we have a few edits on our YouTube channel of Rad, but it was always a fucking awesome session, and everyone was super cool.
Yeah,
And it felt real inclusive too. Like you'd see everyone skating there, you know,
and pumping each other up. I mean,
Yeah.
and now you get that at Edge too. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't too familiar with Edge growing up because I lived so close to that area. I grew up in the Worcester area, so
okay.
it was like Rad was right there, and then Skater Paradise, and
Yeah.
even before that, it was True East, which was in Millbury at the time.
Oh yeah, True East.
Yeah, that was like a closet though. Like you'd go in, you walked in, the skate shop was right there. Yeah, and then you'd look left, and there was like a tiny side room with a couch, and it was just stacked to the ceiling, pretty much with VHSs, any skate video you could think of.
That's fucking awesome.
And then you'd walk in past like the counter for the shop, and it was like a vert wall right in front of you, and then like a very small ledge, a rail you can move around, and then a bank in one corner, and then another quarter pipe in the other, and then a mini ramp, and that was it. That's
Yeah.
all it was.
That's all you need sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
To get a job done.
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, but you'd see so many like big wigs come through, I guess you could call it. People who were really progressing fast, like Ryan Gallant, like all the Coliseum kids.
I feel like
would roll
that's how
through
I
there.
heard about True East was they were repping it, like
Yep.
Gallant and PJ and those guys.
Yeah.
They
Oh yeah.
were repping it.
The owner Dave Vey, he was like best friends with a lot of them.
Oh,
so.
Dave was the owner.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yep.
Wait, did Dave film, right? No. How do I know Dave Vey?
Oh wait, not Dave Vey. It was Vito. I want to say.
Dave Vito.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He moved to Boston after the shop, like after he closed it there.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I only knew him because I dated like his cousin, this girl Megan Hicks.
Nice.
Shout out Megan Hicks.
Shout out.
So, but yeah, no, it was very confined. You felt like you were kind of like, if you're in Central Mass, it felt like that was all you had. So like
Yeah.
that, I lived at Rad, and then after Rad closed, that's when I found out about Edge and started going there. And I was like, oh man, this is so spacious compared to what I've grown up around.
It's
so
insane, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you go to Skaters Island at all?
I did actually when
The
I was
best.
like 12, 13. I went there.
That was like the Edge before the Edge.
Yes,
'Cause it was
exactly.
as big as the Edge, basically.
I borderline died trying to drop in on the half pipe, and I
Oh,
never
dude.
went near a half pipe again after that.
I love that they had a half pipe.
Yeah.
I'm scared of that thing, but the shit that went down, like almost the 900 almost went down on that ramp before Tony did it.
That's wild. And then all I can think, whenever I think about Skater Island, I think about that in the Coliseum video, actually. PJ Ladd, and he does like the kick flips and
all
switch
below
flips.
the coping.
Yeah, and it looks so smooth.
Yeah.
And then they had the two bowls that connected to it with a spine. That's what, when I was 12, I was trying to get better at like bowls.
Yeah.
So like that's what I was hanging out on, because I mean the street section was like massive. Like you would get launched on that thing.
Remember the biggest pyramid with the refrigerator box?
Yep.
That was so intimidating.
Absolutely.
Zared switch flipped that,
which is just wild to me.
To this day, makes no sense.
No, I mean, you put that in a park nowadays, people, I feel like they wouldn't skate it like you would think. Like it would mostly be like people who try to launch themselves, more or less, you know, like vert skaters that have lost their purpose in a sense, you know, trying to get as much speed as possible.
People are trying to get a vert ramp at the edge. I don't think it's going to happen, but
yeah, I mean, it's big. It's a lot of surface area, right? So
they could do it. Like they could knock out like the pill bowl. Like, I feel like it's kind of useless. Like people mess around in there, but it's like so quick. The walls are so close together, and it's just like, there's only so much you could do. You could definitely knock down something and put like a perfect like 9-foot vert ramp. Nothing too big, 9-10 foot.
Yeah.
That way kids could learn vert. It would be entertaining. They should do it alone just because of the events we could throw on it.
That would be wild.
That would be worth it.
And people would start, maybe it would like bring some motivation back to try and learn it. You know
all
what
those
I mean?
hopeless vert skaters
Hell
out there would spark a new generation.
You know what I meant though, right?
No,
like,
I do.
Vert is like kind of lost its way in skateboarding.
It's like it's weird because it went from like vert was everything, the big contest, and then it went to street skating, and now it's like morphing into like concrete like street bowl thing. They're trying to bring vert back. Didn't Andy Mack like enter the Olympics too? He's like
he did.
He's like one of those old guys
what
hanging
is he, like
on.
55 now.
Yeah, he was like the oldest Olympian ever, I believe. That's what they were saying, or at least in skateboarding.
Hey, I mean, good for him. That gives us motivation, right? Like we're getting older. Like if he can do it, we can definitely.
Well, I don't want to enter the Olympics, but
hell no. I mean, we all have our own feelings about skateboarding being in the Olympics, right? I mean, it's good that it's finally made it to that point and it's recognized in that manner, but like the commercialism that's going to come with it is
it's already here.
Yeah,
regardless.
Yeah.
I'm fine with all that because it's like not the game I want to play.
Yeah.
And if the people want to play that, it's like you got to kind of be the people that want to do that are into sports basically. They like some companies and coaches and people organizing the game you're playing.
Yep, exactly.
And you have to be in that box, and that's not my thing. So it's almost like unrelatable. So I'm fine with it existing. Just don't make. The only problem I come across with that is if they try to set the trends. That pisses me off when it's like, no, like skateboarding is kind of for everybody, not just one elite. You know, when Nike buys up everyone and they're all in the Olympics, and if kids are just like all like, this is what's cool and nothing else. But we're not really there yet.
No, I don't think like the East Coast side of skateboarding either. In the local scene, you're not going to see people idolizing Olympian skateboarders either. You know, we're all into the people that like aren't on the radar, I guess, for lack of a better term. I feel like we felt something similar when Nike started Nike SB, right? Like everybody was like, "Oh, great, Nike's now involved." So
the second time, because they were involved a long time ago too, and then they disappeared, and then they came back with the SB.
Yeah, it was like the early 2000s, like 2007, 2008. That was like when P-Rod moved over. It was like, all right, here we go with this.
It's a crazy thing, man.
Yep. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, as long as the skate parks are still bringing in people, as long as skateboarding still brings new faces to it, you're going to see greatness continuously, right?
Yeah. As long as people continue to as long as skate shops around and people are doing brands and kids are working on videos together and team videos and shop videos, brand videos, full lengths, like as long as we keep it alive, it'll carry forward, you know?
Yep. And the creativity needs to flow. It can't just be like that, like monotonous, like robotic approach, like how we kind of are seeing with the Olympics, where like the pros who are entering into it are just doing the same runs over and over and over again. And I get like practicing for that stuff, but like at the same time, it's like then people only look at those trick selections, and that's like what they expect skateboarding to be, like a 360 kickflip lip slide, you know, like
Yeah.
that's like the norm to them. I don't know, you know, good luck trying it.
Yeah, there's so much more nuance.
Yep.
Bobby Puglio is one of the greatest skateboarders, but if you don't know anything about like gritty skateboarding, you'll never know, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The underground always lives.
Absolutely. It thrives. It
Yeah.
thrives even more when commercialism tries to take
Yeah.
puts their hands in it all.
Yeah, it separates it shows how good skateboarding is.
Yep.
Outside of that box, you know?
Yep. It's like I use this. It's like rap, right? Like older underground rap. As rap became way more mainstream and like everybody was like more obsessed with like the top 40 aspect, you saw underground music, like rap music, just thrive like so much. You know?
Yeah.
That's where you got like all like the like Immortal Technique and all these other people that were just like straight up like, I'll never go to that route to like sell my soul essentially to the corporate world.
Yeah, like Brother Ali. And,
a
a
lot
lot of Minnesota and Talib Kweli.
Yep.
Like trying to do it independently.
Vinny Paz.
Yeah.
Jedi Mind
Hell
Tricks.
yeah.
It's
Hell
such
yeah.
a good era.
Sick. Yeah. That was kind of my thing with All I Need was like just to figure out a way to do it so that we could do it independently of like any sponsors and build our own thing and just have our version of it. And so that was like that's why I initially started it, was like because I saw like the whole internet coming and I lost sponsors, and I was like, this whole thing's transitioning from like DVDs and magazines to digital, and like I can see all these corporate footwear sponsors coming in and eating up the industry in some degree, and like all the contests were starting to like consolidate everything and start giving people points and rankings and shit. And I was like, yeah, if older pro dudes such as myself don't like take the responsibility of like starting a brand or doing something and like building the culture, our own culture, like start like passing it on to the next generation basically, like then they're just going to follow whatever the coolest trend is that some sponsor bought up, the coolest skater. Like you see it now on any website you go. It's
absolutely.
Like the sponsors bought up these riders and then they're putting out the content, and it's like they're trying to dictate who's what, you know? And it's like there's a lot of amazing skateboarders out there. And that was another reason why I started the podcast too. I think I talked about it on the last one. I was like, there's so many pro skateboarders that are just like, they're going to be forgotten because of the transition from the DVD magazine days to like digital, and a lot of them didn't know how to do digital, you know. Like someone gets just get lost, you miss their stories, you know, like they've put in so much work, they're heroes, you know, like like this generation probably doesn't even know who Dandra Hobel is, and that breaks my fucking heart.
I know,
you know what I mean? There's so many legends,
so many pros that just kind of like faded off because of the technology boom, because
they
of
scared
social
them or something
media.
They didn't want to like do it, they didn't want to figure it out. It's like a whole new world.
Or they probably thought, like we were saying, they're probably selling their souls to something that like they don't believe in, right?
Yeah, true too. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate, you know, not to brown nose you or anything, but I appreciate everything you've done for skateboarding in the local scene, especially, and like the motivation and inspiration that you're giving the younger kids to like do well and look at skateboarding through the right lens, I guess, or the lens that actually it was intended for skateboarding is admirable.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's self-serving too, because like I want to play a part, you know, and I want to stay relevant in it. Because I, you know, like I started skating when I was 12, like a lot of us started young, and it becomes who you are because you put so much of your life, energy, and force into it, and like your time, and all your friends come from it, and it just gives back to you so much that you're just like, you are skateboarding, and it's like, I just didn't want to let it, you know, like none of us want to let it go. You just want to stay a part of it, even if you have to be a small part.
Exactly.
Even if I have to yell at Jacob and tell him to fucking stop pushing fucking Mongo.
You know, only switch. Remember, what was it? Gonzo said it best. He's like, the only proper way to push is switch. Push Mongo is switch.
I'm dealing with the helmet thing now because Anders grew up in the generation. I think he's 16, 17, and he's always had a helmet. Mm-hmm. And so that's all he knows. And
well,
he's like coming out street skating. Yeah, it's safe. I know. His mom tells him it's safe. It's fine.
That's right.
I talked to his dad about it. I was like, he's still wearing a helmet. He's like, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't take it off yet. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. And even Anders, like, I talked to him openly about it because, like, I'm nice about it.
Yeah.
Dickie's just like, take the fucking thing off. He's like a dick about it, which I get too, you know?
Yep.
But I'm like give or take, I don't really care, you know, because I get like that's all he's ever known.
Mm-hmm. It's his comfort blanket, right?
Yeah, but I also like want to tell him like, yo, there's a confidence thing here. Like you're wearing a helmet at a fucking skate park, skating a box.
Yep.
Like you're good enough. You should have enough confidence to know that you can skate without a fucking helmet. Like trying to tell him that. I'm like, there's pros and cons to it, you know? Like you also got to learn how to bail without a helmet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that completely.
So it's been crazy awesome though, because one day, like 2 weeks ago, he forgot his helmet. Showed up at my house, drove like 40 minutes to get here because he's driving now. Showed up, no helmet, and he's like panicking. He's like, oh, I forgot my helmet. And I just start laughing, like evil laugh. And he just like all day, I could see him like the first half of the day, he's just like conflicted. Like he wants to skate. He doesn't like know how he's going to do this, pull it off. Like we're going street skating too.
Yep.
We warm up at a park, but like he's like, fuck, I want to get clips. Like, so he ended up front boarding his first street rail with no helmet on. Did it 3 times easily.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I'm like, see, there's like levels, man. Like you got to have have confidence. Like you're good enough to do certain things without a helmet. Like I get if you're going to go try something out of your comfort level, like, and you want to wear a helmet, I get that. But like you don't have to live in fear of like forgetting your helmet and like skating around without a helmet.
Time to take the Band-Aid off, right?
Exactly.
You know?
And I've had to justify the whole aesthetics of it, you know? Because like that just goes out the window. It's like, no, that's one of the main reasons I love skateboarding is the way it looks aesthetically.
Yes.
Like, and they don't, like this generation may never know that because, you know, commoditization and packaging of things and fucking people telling them what to do and how to be safe and bullying online. Like a month ago I posted online like, what are the pros and cons of wearing a helmet? And the amount of fucking people that just told me I was stupid and should wear a helmet is like, for even just asking that question, just asking that, because they couldn't think of they couldn't think of a reason not to wear a helmet because they've always just been told it's safe and, you know, and I'm like, there's tons of reasons. Like, I'm fucking 41 and I've never worn a helmet.
No.
Like,
maybe at like 11 or 10, you know, but I mean, ultimately, like, the helmet is going to prevent you from learning how to fall properly, learning how to, like, catch yourself, you know? I mean, that's, like, the biggest thing. I mean, having that courage to be able to roll it out, you know, versus just like letting your body flail and just expect that the helmet's going to save you every time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time and a place.
I get if you're under 18 and like your parents tell you to wear a helmet, you should wear a helmet. Listen to your parents. If you're not an adult and they want you to wear a helmet, you should listen to them, you know?
Yep. I mean, even if you're like trying something out of your realm, like for instance, like if I were to try to roll up to, I mean, I don't do stair sets or handrails anymore, but if I were to try to roll up to a 10-stair handrail, I might consider it for a second. Like, oh man, maybe I should wear a helmet just for getting into it. But like, if you're like getting like he did it 3 times in a row, you were saying?
Like I think he did it twice in a row, and then the third one took him a little bit. But he did it 3 times. First time skating a street handrail.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get comfortable with the obstacle, it's okay to free yourself of that and just be like, you know what, for the clip, you know, because it is the aesthetics that takes, I'd say like 40% of like what a skateboard clip is, right? How it looks, you know, the approach, the angle, right? Like, just let it go. And you know what? You got to tuck and roll it out, you know? Don't put all your weight on your arms. Don't just like be a dead fish when you hit the ground, you know? So
he's figured out a good balance now. He'll like wear it in the beginning of the sessions and stuff, and then when he gets his confidence, he just takes it off and like gets his swag going.
That's awesome.
And he has a good style, and the helmet just gives you that uniform look, you know. And you're like, it's hard to like, I don't know, it's way better without it looking. It looks way better.
Of course. So,
I mean, we kind of got way away from this, but I wanted to ask you, like, you started in Worcester. Where were you living when you started skating? And
so I was born in Worcester. I moved to Uxbridge when I was like 4. And then when I got into 2nd grade, I moved to Douglas because my parents were like trying to inch me away from the city for school, right?
That's where
like,
Anders is from.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of skateboarders come out of Uxbridge, I swear to God.
It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. So I I kind of touched a board in Uxbridge when I was like 5, but I would like sit on it and didn't care much about it. But then at 9, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out on N64. And I know it sounds so cliche, but I saw like playing the game. I'm like, man, I want to do that. Like, I want to be able to grind like telephone poles and all that. Like, weirdly, you know, I had huge aspirations for it, but I was like, it gave me that spark, like we were talking about with like our kids, like. And that was it. My dad, you know, one of the few times he actually paid for a board, he bought me a Veriflex, you know.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Veriflex is was it like the Walmart version?
Yeah, oh, yeah, that was it. When Veriflex finally was, like, on its way out, it like that, my dad got me a Veriflex, got my brother a Mongoose board, which is not even a thing anymore.
That was bikes.
Yeah, exactly. And I just learned fast. Like, I started watching my buddies from school. Their older brothers had like VHSs, like One Step Beyond was around
Audio.
that time. Yep. Oh yeah, Audio. Such a great video.
One Step Beyond, Ed Salego, Brian Sumner. That was such a legendary crew.
Jeremy Ray. That's where isn't that where he ollied the
towers?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was in that video though. I think that might have been Plan B video.
But that was a great one. I mean, Kenny Anderson was in it. Yep.
I'm gonna look it up so we can shout out everyone because I remember that was crazy crew.
Yep.
One Step Beyond skate video.
Yep.
Usually it pops up and it'll list off like the name of the skaters.
Tony Hawk, Shaun White, they shared a part.
That's right, dude. Josh Stewart.
Yep.
Filmed it. Oh yeah, Bam was in that thing.
Bam, yep.
Danny Montoya. All right, Sumner, Jeremy Ray,
Montoya.
Bam Margera, Ed Salego, Chris Markovich, Danny Montoya, Kenny Anderson. One Step Beyond.
Such a good video. So like, you know, started piecing together the skate videos, and then right around that time I met some of my best friends, the Dodds. They're a family of brothers and a sister, and ended up their dad was like super supportive of skateboarding, so like he would take us on the weekends to like different parks, and that's where we went to True East, and that's where the whole like the floodgates opened, because like I sat down in that side room with the couch and I just started plugging away at videos like Chomp on This. Remember Chomp on This?
Classic.
Yep. And the Coliseum video came out shortly after that. But like it just became obsessed, you know, and I was excelling quick, and I did traditional sports for the longest time.
What'd you play?
I played soccer, basketball, and then track and field as I got into high school. But as soon as I got decent at skateboarding, I learned like my kick flips, heel flips, like started skating like boxes, and then stairs. I was already ollieing like stair sets, like 6-8 sets, like when I was like 11, 12,
wow.
right? And that was it. I gave up all the other sports, and my dad resented me for that. Like, couldn't stand the fact that I wasn't doing like the traditional stuff.
Which one did he want you to play?
He was aiming for baseball eventually, and football, but like I just, you know, I guess I saw through it subconsciously, like about like how some of these sports, it's just like there's way too much pressure on a person to like be the absolute best at it. And like one thing that really stuck out to me is like after a soccer game, I was like playing center midfield, and my team, I got the ball at the last second and I missed the goal, and that goal would have won. And my whole team like hated me for it after that. So I walked off the field and I never went back. I was like, no.
Did you take the shot though?
Yeah, of
you
course.
Just missed?
I was like one thing like I was good at is I was fast, so I was able to get up and down the field quick to be able to like play offense and defense. As a center midfield, that's kind of like what you did. You went back and forth. So like this was one of the few times that I actually like tripped over myself and didn't get it. And like I was like, you know what? Like the fact that like I was just getting mean mugged by even the parents. Like I just felt so it was like in a way traumatizing, right? For like a 12-year-old. And
yeah, dude.
That was it.
It's everything when you're 12, yeah.
My dad was the assistant coach, and I was like, no more. I was like, I'm done with this. And he's like, that's when his like hate for skateboarding started. And I was like,
because he thinks you're a quitter. He thought you quit because he wants you to get back on the horse.
Yeah, but he didn't pay attention to the fact that like outside I was like 360 flipping already, and I was like doing nose manuals and manis, and like
he didn't understand how radical skateboarding is.
Exactly, because you know the boomer image of it, right, was like that it was like drug users, and granted, I mean we can get into it in a little bit,
but they thought that's all they were.
Yes, there was no real like like the camaraderie that you build with your peers, like, yes, it's individual to a degree, right? Like, I'd say like 70% of it's individual because you're the one doing the tricks. But that 30%, which is a big 30%, is like your crowd, you know, your group, you're battling together at places.
The thing is, once you discover skateboarding, you start learning, you want other people to like share that with and learn off of and learn from, you know. You always get a crew.
Put that on vibrate.
It's beautiful because you can do both with skateboarding. You do it by yourself, or you can have a fucking team, you know.
I have days, I mean, as I got older, like recently, like I become introverted with skating, and like, you know, I beat up myself a lot like anybody else. So like now it's like I appreciate those 1 or 2 sessions in the week by myself with just some music and like just working on something. But I've noticed that you can't do it too much. You have to be with your people. You have to like be in the community. There's no way. It's like you feel like a piece of yourself is missing when you're not there, you know?
Totally.
So, but yeah, so, you know, they didn't really support me with skateboarding, and like it got to the point where like I was borrowing shoes and boards from my friends. Like, I never really like looked hard into sponsorship. I tried a couple times, but like I was always getting like shoes that were either like 1 or 2 sizes too big for me, or a shoe that was way too small for me. And then I'd be skating a board like back in the early 2000s, 8s and above weren't really like common. Nobody really skated them. It was like 7.5, 7.75, 7.63. I remember that size too. Yeah, exactly. But like I was getting huge boards in like say a tiny shoe, but I had to make it work, you know. And like I was skating the same trucks and bearings sometimes for like 2-3 years.
Kingpins used to break. Axles would fucking strip. Like I remember changing the same truck so many times. Fucking Frankenstein truck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember when Phantom was big. I had like a Phantom base with a Grind King top. Like, and I was like, it was brutal.
That's the ugliest truck that's ever existed.
Both of them.
Yeah,
you know
together.
I mean? Phantoms were terrible.
Phantom and Grind King together is like a throw up.
Yeah, literally. I mean, Grind King was like a 20-pound truck, and then like Phantoms, like their axles would snap so easily.
I rode for them.
Did you really?
It was one of my first sponsors. It was when you can't get too hard on me because I think Jerry Fowler and Jamal Williams skated for him.
Yep.
And Jason Maxwell. But I broke so many of those fucking things, dude.
It's like when Silver came out. Remember when Silver first started? They had like a return policy where you get a free one. I mean, my buddy was skating.
It was the same thing. Phantom and Silver.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was the same metal,
distribution,
right?
Yeah. Same people made the truck.
That's crazy. No wonder why the axles were always like shattering on this kid. And he was one of this kid, Dan Alves. Shout out Dan. He doesn't skate anymore, but he was the one that really turned me on to like tech and like flipping, and like, you know, we were obsessed with like Girl Yeah Right, like anything Paul Rodriguez way back in the day.
So good.
I mean, even all the Boston kids, like seeing PJ's part really opened a lot of doors for people, right?
Yeah,
like that
he made a huge moment for sure.
I mean, it was
all
like,
of skateboarding.
It was like a time traveler, right?
Yeah,
like he like
totally.
I mean, the guy should be like what they're doing on normally now. He just did it back then, like 23 years ago.
He was an alien for sure when he dropped.
For sure.
It was crazy.
I remember how like one thing that sticks out to me from that video is like, remember how SXLs, right?
Oh yeah.
They would never rip. The old ones, not these reissues. I don't know what they did to the material. I love S. I skate S now again, but like they would never rip. So that one clip of the filmer going up to PJ's shoe, his SXL, and it was shattered. It was like that was not heard of back then.
Yeah.
Because they almost got like harder when they started to wear.
That clip like blew minds because you just know he did thousands and thousands of kickflips. Like
with
you knew
that.
That's how you get that to happen.
But so like I had to Frankenstein a lot of stuff over the years, and like, but either way, like the love for it just kept growing and growing. And I think like a lot of us, like partying started to take place. I mean, where I was going to high school in Douglas, I didn't have too many friends in Douglas. I had like my select crew, but I was always hanging out in Uxbridge.
Yeah.
Actually, where the Uxbridge skate park is now, my buddy Joe Lateral, Quinn George, another good friend of mine, and Christy Marquise and Jimmy Marquise, actually, we would skate the courts that were there with one bench, and we were like, this is great. Why don't they put a park here? And this is like 2003, 2004. We're talking about this.
Yeah.
And then fast forward now 20 years, and there's
fun
something.
ass skate park.
Oh, it's awesome, and it reminds me of Rad. To circle back to Rad, it like has so many aspects of what Rad was. The sense of community and like, really, really pushing everybody to like do their best and like, just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, that park is awesome.
So,
and the people there are super awesome too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We threw a skate event there a few years back, and it was fucking awesome. It was the first time I've ever thrown a skate event, and more people turned up and entered for the like 40+ category.
That's awesome.
Like that was the hype division of the contest, which was like, this is insane,
Motivating right there.
Yeah, and everyone killed it. It was like the highlight of the contest was the old dudes, and it's because everything's low impact and there's a lot of everything there, so you could put on a hell of a show,
Yeah, and there's a flow to it, and that's what Rad was like. That they had like an L street section kind of, and you could just go back and forth on that to do like forever lines, and that's what Uxbridge kind of did, and it had the hip right in the middle of it all. So it's like, it's awesome. It's cool to see that. But like looking back when we were younger, like wishing that the Uxbridge would build some kind of skate park, because like the spots out there are trash. Like you had to make do with what you had. Like there was stair sets everywhere. But
like a lot of farm and stuff out that
it's
way?
Open, right?
Yeah.
And like the downtown areas of like Uxbridge, Douglas, Whitensville were like everything was so spread out, so you were hoping that one of your older friends had a car to drive you to different spots. Like you could skate it, but it was just, most of the stuff was so old and trashy.
Yeah.
I remember there's this one handrail in Whitensville that's like right outside of an old bank, and it's like their main street's like right there. It's like at a set of lights. I'm sure people have skated it even more since then.
I feel like I've been there.
Yeah, you probably have. It's like an 8 stair. It's like kind of long. Like
so.
The steps are like short, but they're long. It's like a long stair set.
I believe I've been there.
Yeah, so that rail, we that is like where we'd all try to hang out and try to kickflip that stair set. And like all the walls around it, like you get up and manny it and stuff. That was like the best spot in that whole area for a long time,
Yeah.
So that obviously drove a lot of us to start making our way to Worcester even more, and that's where like that whole scene really like that I got more motivated, and a lot of my friends really were pushing themselves, because now we do like weekend trips out to Worcester. It's a 20-minute drive.
Worcester's wild too.
Yeah, another place where it's spread
city.
out,
Yeah.
right? But like some of the gems that are there, like there used to be the Centrum. It's now the DCU Center, but the Centrum had like this really long like marble granite, smooth granite like mani pad, and then a bunch of other ones going off of this like small stair set.
Sick.
That was the spot to hang out, and like they had an 8 stair and a 12 stair right around the back.
Dang.
So like that's where you'd work on like trying stuff downstairs, or you'd like be doing mani stuff, and it was like had to have been like a 40-foot or 50-foot mani pad.
Wow.
Yeah, it was smooth as hell. Over time,
it's just a street spot.
Yeah, they redid all of that, and now it's like kind of lame. People still skate it. Everything's skate stop though.
Yeah.
But that was like the big spot everybody hung out at, and then City Hall. That was another one. That was another one where it was like wide open. You could just push around all the bums and shit. But like it was like smoother ground.
That's the best feeling, I think, back when there's nowhere to skate, but you just find the meetup spot in the city, and then you show up and there's different people there.
Yeah.
It's like the coolest feeling.
You run into everybody. That was like awesome about it. And you're all lurking. You're all like with your cameras, like your GL2s and your VXs, and you're like, reusing tapes because you keep recording over everything, but like making the best out of it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, that was like the pinnacle of like my upbringing in skateboarding, was just like trying to find the next biggest stair set, trying to find like the next like ledge spot, and like just getting it in when you could. And it definitely took a lot of my time and energy away from like everything else in life. Like I feel like a lot of us, we just were like, skateboarding. And then, at the end of the day, it's like 5 years have gone by. You're like, oh wait, I should probably start working now, huh?
Skateboarding, like as much as it does great things for people, it also slows people from maturing. It can. You can use it as a crutch for so long, and just like I did that for a long time, but I also I worked on getting really good and trying to push my skating so far because I felt guilty because I was like, I'm not doing anything else, you know? Like I didn't have a job. I was just like, I was getting paid to just skateboard. So I was like, but I could feel that happening. But I also paid attention to like all the companies and how they're running their business, and I like studied on my own, you know? Like
Smart.
Yeah, like luckily I had an interest in that. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I did it on purpose. It was just like a natural interest, but I always had guilt because I could just tell. I'm like, yeah, like other people are maturing. Like I shouldn't be like a Peter Pan. Like,
Yep.
this is like not gonna be good if when it falls apart.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I always had that in the back of my head too, because things like that happen in your life. You know, things fall apart, and you gotta have a plan.
Yep.
So,
I mean, injuries, right? That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
always the reality check.
Age
Whenever you
and
get
injuries,
hurt,
yeah.
whenever you get hurt, you're like, oh man, what else do I got to do now that I'm out for like 4 months, 3
and it's
months?
usually because you're like, I'm gonna go crazy, so I need to figure something out.
Yep.
Because skateboarding's that crutch where you're like, it just keeps me from thinking of all the things I gotta do.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Because you can just focus on going and learn a trick.
Getting those
Get that
dopamine
high,
hits.
yeah.
Read each other's mind right
It's
there.
crazy because it's partly not a bad thing, but like our society is kind of crazy, you know?
Oh yeah.
So it's like we're not even allowed to play,
No.
you know? Kids need to play.
Exactly.
We end up playing into our adulthood because like you need it, you know?
I mean, honestly, like I think that the beauty of skating and staying with it is it does make you feel young still. Like you're watching it grow into this like thing, and we go through phases where it plateaus, but like ultimately it keeps you feeling like you're still in your 20s or your teens, like to some extent, right?
If you're skating, because if you're skating, you're engaged and your
Yes.
heart's going, you're sweating. It really does keep you young.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Not just mentally, but physically as well. You know?
Yep, you get that cardio in. You're keeping
Yeah.
that leg strength.
A lot of skateboarders I know that skate a lot, they look younger than their age. They're always getting like JV.
Oh, yeah.
So you're like, what? You're that old? And you're like, yeah, he just looks young still.
When him and I were talking about his age like a few weeks back, and like I'm like over here like, you know, I can't even say anything to you. I'm over here talking about being 35. I'm like, I can't say shit because like I have no excuse for fucking up. Like you're doing amazing like for your age, and I didn't even realize he was as old as he was, and I won't give it away out of
Fucking
respect.
dinosaur, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
He skates so much, he's fucking might as well be 35.
Yeah, seriously. I thought he was like a little older than me, and I'm like, when he told me, I was like, no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. But I mean, it's motivation, right?
Totally.
I mean, seeing you still ripping, seeing a lot of people in their 40s and even 50s. I see some people at Plymside that are like much older, and it's like awesome to see them ripping. I mean, what Jared Pimentel, the kid's like got kid. I shouldn't even say that. The man has like so many tricks in his pocket, and he
front crook god, bro.
Literally, he owns that trick. Like,
I think his bio says like front crooks are nothing or something.
Yeah. But he surprises you all the time with stuff because he puts in the work, you know, and like he's present, you know, and like that's awesome. And same with you. You're present. You're there, and that's like really motivating. Like, I had to obviously I took a year off because of like my deployment, but like now I'm like trying to work on getting all my tricks back and like trying to be more involved again, and like it's awesome. It's like you might step away from the whole scene for a minute, but as soon as you get back into it, you're welcome back with open arms.
Spot's always reserved.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that work's never in vain. It comes right back when you get back on your board and you get your cardio back. It's like all that muscle memory starts firing back up. All those people, like, they just want to see you back on your board anyways.
That's
They're
it.
just like, I wish she'd come back. It makes the session funner. So
Agreed.
The spot's always reserved. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I feel like that's people's like fears when they stop and then they don't know how to get back, and it's like they don't realize, like, just go. Like, people want to skate with you. They want to see you again. A lot of the time at Edge, people will come in and they'll come to the counter like, it's been a long time. They feel guilty and shit, and we're just like, yo, hyped your back, dude.
Yep.
You know, like, any day's a good day to get back into it, you know?
Yeah, you're here now. That's what matters, you know?
Get rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's all going to come flooding back, you know?
Agreed. So
tell me a little bit about deployment and how you got into everything.
So, you know, being a degenerate teenager,
Nice.
you know, I I let life, like, I didn't pay attention to school as much. I'm like that statistic. So like I would do well, but I just wouldn't do the homework. So eventually,
Could you do the homework?
yeah, oh yeah. But I didn't want to because I was more focused on like hanging out with my friends and skating, and like partying was becoming a thing. But 19 years old, I signed up and went off. And
where'd you go? How'd you sign up?
So I got into some trouble. All right, this is
Nice.
2008. I got into some trouble, and I did a little time in Worcester House of Corrections for
What was the
party favors. We'll say that.
Okay.
And then I kept violating probation because I wanted to smoke weed.
Yeah.
And I thought I was invincible, essentially.
Yeah.
So I get in trouble. I do a little bit of time. I get out, and I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? And right down the street from where in downtown Worcester, there was a recruiter's office, and I just walked right in and was like, get me out of here.
Wow.
And that was it. It was that simple. I mean, it was during a time in the wars where they call it the surge. So it means they just opened the floodgates for enlistments, and they were taking everybody and anybody.
When is this?
2000. At this point, it was 2009.
What was wars going on?
So
then?
we had the Iraq War, which
Yeah.
was kind of dying down, but not really. And then we had the Afghanistan War, Operation
Okay.
Enduring Freedom. And that was really the big surge, is like to infiltrate the Taliban and really
So
try
what
to-
was your logic though?
I-
You went from like in trouble to like now you want to just go to the opposite to like boot camp and fucking war?
It was drastic, right?
Yeah.
I guess it was like I saw like my sister had been in the Air Force. She had deployed to Iraq already. And I saw like another one of my buddies from Douglas who was like the biggest troublemaker in the world. He goes, joins the military, deploys, and he's like this disciplined, well-mannered, like has his shit together. And I saw both of that, and I was like, you know what? Like, I want to do, I know this is going to be a quick fix, which is like definitely was the big thing on my mind. I know this is going to get me in line and get me in line quick, because if I don't, I'm going down a really bad path. And like, I was at that point, like there, so certain like pills were a big issue back in the day. I'm sure like you remember seeing friends and
dude.
family.
I grew up in trailer parks and projects, and
Yeah.
pills are a huge part.
So exactly,
And
like,
it's sad. It's rough.
It's rough.
really
It'll
rough.
eat you alive, right?
Yeah.
So
you
like,
lose people. They're there, but they're gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're just a vessel at that point.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that. And I knew where I was headed if I stuck around. So I just...
And at 19, everything seems so heavy and urgent. And
100%. And
Yeah.
you're not looking at... Like, that was one of the few times when I was younger that I was looking at, like, the future. Because everything was always in the moment, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I did it. I signed up. I did this thing called a quick ship. So, like, within 3 months of signing up, I was off to boot camp.
Did your parents know you were doing this?
Yeah. My dad served. He did his minimum. He did 3 years in the infantry in the 80s. And my mom, she never served, but she was like all for me going. My dad, believe it or not, was like hesitant. He's like, what are you going to do? You're going to get out and be a mercenary? And like, I'm like, what? He's like, find a career in the military. So like, meaning like find a job that you can do on the civilian side when you're out, instead of being left high and dry. Like if you did infantry, like what are you going to do? Become a private contractor? Like
Yeah.
those jobs are a lot harder to get.
So try to find a skill that
Yeah.
you can translate afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up signing up, and initially I signed up to be a combat engineer. So I wanted to blow shit up, and I thought that was like the workaround from infantry. I definitely wanted to be. There was an engineer company in Whitensville that I wanted to be in, because my buddy, that troublemaker kid, he was in it. So I ended up not being able to get that job last second because they're like overstrength, they call it. So it means like they had too many people in that position at that point, and they needed to downsize it. So like on a whim, I'm like, well, what can I do on the civilian side? Oh, water treatment. So I signed up for that, went through the schools, graduated boot camp, did really well, focused a lot on the combat aspect, like entering and clearing houses, like weapons, all the weapon systems I was obsessed with. And then I get to my unit, and they're like, what's your MOS? I'm like, water treatment. They're like, you're not doing that. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you're going to be driving, and you're going to be doing convoys and reactor contact, and like you're doing more of the combat related stuff. That job means nothing. So I was like, okay, the government wasted money essentially once again. So
surprise.
Yeah, exactly. So I end up going to 88 Mike School, they call it. It's truck driving school, and now I have 2 MOSs under my belt, which is your job. And that's really what I did in the engineers for a long time. I'm now on at like 13 years, I kind of got like tired of the engineer way. We were always in the woods. We were always freaking like dealing with like shitty living conditions and working very long hours and being the guard, right? You know, you do your 1 week in a month. Traditionally, you do your 2 weeks in the summer. And then you get stood up for deployments, like, because the National Guard deploys like all the time.
Yeah.
But like I got tired of like building up for a deployment and then it never happening. And I got tired of the like fuckery, for lack of a better term, from leadership, which is always the case, right? It's always the bosses. So it was a deployment that was coming up 2 years ago, and it was with aviation on Cape Cod. And I was like, oh, can I get on that? I had at that point picked up a third job, which was aviation fuel, but they don't do it in the ground. It was just a way to get sergeant, which, you know, now I'm a staff sergeant, but it was when I got promoted to sergeant, that was like the job I had to do. So what
were you doing exactly?
So it's considered a petroleum supply at this point, but I was still driving trucks. At that point, I was a battalion ammo handler, so I was handling all like issuing and turning in ammo for the ranges. It never touched fuel at all, but because it was my job, one of my jobs, they were like, "We're taking fuelers for this deployment," and I was like, "Oh, sweet!" Volunteered, got on it right away, and then I was off to Iraq, and it was
so crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, when you serve, and like other people who have been in the military can say the same thing, I would hope, is like you feel obligated to go. Like it's like all this training, all this build up, I mean, in a weird way, brainwashing, right? It makes you feel like the only way that you're properly serving your country is to go over there and deal with like being in that shithole, really.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the person you want to go, is the person that wants to do it.
Yeah. And it's changed a lot. Like being in now 15 years, I see the younger soldiers, they don't give a shit about like the training anymore. They just care about the college degree. And I respect the, you know, free college idea that the National Guard offers, but like when you're wearing the uniform, it's like you got to know that job too, because you're not always going to be home.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
Yeah. So I
don't want to end up somewhere and you didn't pay attention to.
And we saw that.
Fuck.
And that was a thing that was definitely an issue, was like people didn't care about the training until they were put in situations where they had to care about what they learned, and it caused panic a lot of times. So like, you know, lessons were learned, I hope, from these younger kids. When we deployed, it was like not just Massachusetts, it was like New York, Vermont, Georgia, a bunch of different states from like my brigade, they call it. So it's like the biggest part of the unit, like as a whole.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it was like a culture shock for a lot of people who never thought that they would deploy. Yeah. And then for people who wanted it or were, you know, looking to check that box, it was like not everything we wanted. Like there's a lot of politics involved in the military now. Like the wars that we're in aren't what they used to be.
Yeah, everything's kind of like that in politics in our country. All the countries and the narratives and stories are all breaking down, and you're seeing through the veil. You're seeing the Wizard of Oz type thing behind the curtain, and you're just like, it's crazy because we still need to have a country, and we still need to have people, an army. Yeah. We still need to do all these things, but it's crazy how they just like people shit on our country and shit on. Well, it's being embarrassing. Proud of stuff, and like it's crazy. This whole thing is crazy.
I think that at the end of the day, right, like there's always been one perspective of how we're supposed to look at life, and then when you see the other side to it, it changes everything. And now I think with the younger generation and technology, they're seeing right past the facade that's been like given to us and force fed down our brains for so long. So they're looking past it, and it's causing like turmoil, you know? It's blurring the lines in a lot of ways. So
yeah, the connection to the internet has disrupted every industry, everything, and it's insane. Yep. And if only it was like as simple as like it's showing you the truth. It's not. No. The internet shows you everything. People's imaginations and delusions, and people are so connected to it that it's just terrifying. Yep. It's hard to be in base reality sometimes.
It's a blessing and a curse, right?
Absolutely.
You know, like
absolutely.
It finally the world feels a lot smaller than what it actually is, and people feel more connected, but it also brings in all of that extra garbage and opinions and like
Yeah.
everybody.
Well,
trying
we
to-
don't even. It makes you not doubt everything.
Yeah. Yep. agreed.
Like you're truly out in the wild, like you are. Like you can just look at our politics for that. You don't know who to believe,
Yep.
who's telling the truth, who's
Yep.
like. That's why people just sign up to one side or the other because they don't want to think. Because
Yep.
otherwise, your other option is to be in the middle and
Yep.
be out in the wilderness of like, I can't believe anything. I got to kind of wait for things to play out. And
Agreed.
meanwhile, everything is telling you have to believe this, and you're just like, fuck.
It's a sensory overload,
It's
right?
insanity, yeah.
And I think people who do think in the middle, like I don't believe in either side of that. I'm sure you don't either. I think they
Two
both.
wings, one bird.
That's it. There it is. Perfect way to say it. So like I think at the end of the day, if you can still kind of find your collective meaning in it all and just take it for what it is at face value, I think we'll be able to come together as like a country,
Yeah.
or even in the world. If we could all just like put all that divide and conquer bullshit aside and just focus on just like loving one another and being present and being in the now, I think it'll bring this world together, right?
It's kind of like what we were talking about with skating, how skating like stunted your maturing. It's because there's a lot of that going on in society, is like you're paying attention to this phone and everyone else's opinion instead of dealing with what you need to be dealing directly in front of you, whether that be your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, your neighbors, like things you could just deal with if you're present in your own life. There's things that we could follow, the breadcrumbs that are in front of us that we just miss because we're distracted or chasing someone else's dream or whatever,
Yeah, agreed.
Like there's so many. I grew up the way America, I love America.
Mm-hmm.
But I also grew up in America where like it was violent and lots of drugs, and my dad was in a gang and my mom was lost on pills and other drugs, and I was on my own since I was 12. So cops weren't like my friends.
No,
I wasn't against
absolutely
cops, but every time I seen cops, it wasn't a good thing because they're usually after my family or someone I know.
Yep.
So it's like I always grew up in America where I was like, we have freedom. We just have not too much freedom, but we have the freedom to be wrong and ignorant and stupid, and you can cheat people, and the wolves are out there because we're free enough to like set pitfalls for other people and monopolize it and shit like that. So ever since I was little, I always was like, we're in this crazy situation where like anything could happen, and people, I think with the internet, started realizing that, because I always had that when I was little, and then I watched the rest of the world go through that realization where it's like, we've been lied to about a lot of shit, and no one's actually really looking. We're in a society where it's so free that people can do whatever, and it's like, that's a good thing, but there's also the negatives that come with that,
Yeah.
and watching the internet take hold and seeing people realize that, like right now, is like, I feel like I was a little bit ahead of all this just because of the way I grew up,
I agree with that, right? Like
Yeah.
I was in the same situation, like because I had so much friction with my parents. I was out the door. They kicked me out at 16. I was couch surfing after that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was another big reason why I joined the military, was just to get away and get that sense of security.
Yeah.
But like all the way up till me joining, it was so ironic, and I didn't like the government. I didn't like the military. I didn't like any of it, right?
That's crazy.
It's so wild.
The switch.
Yeah, and lucky. I think lucky for me, I was able to kind of still maintain that level of distrust to some extent, and I'm like, I keep it at arm's length. Like, I respect it. It's helped me in like develop like a career and take care of my family, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I still know that everything we're doing isn't for the right reasons, and like we're at the lowest point in it all, being in the military. The corporate greed that is actually running the military industrial complex, they're the ones causing all this chaos, and I think that it all trickles down into every aspect of our society.
Oh yeah.
And I think that seeing situations that were violent, seeing how bad drugs could affect people. I mean, you and I are similar with being thrown into those predicaments, and I completely agree with the fact that like you saw how ugly things could be, and you saw how like everybody's so focused on the smallest details that they're not looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
Where it's just, we're all connected, we're all one. Really, we are just one big, vessel together on this planet, and like we have so much in common, believe it or not, but like we let all of these little things and these opinions and this like persuasiveness get the best of us, you know?
It's insane how whoever divide and conquer has worked so well on our society. We're an affluent country, I think, and that's like a lot of what we see is like we've done well as a country for a long time, you know, and people get comfortable and complacent, and they don't realize like the level of hardship until like it's on them, you know. And people don't think for themselves when you're comfortable, when everything's been provided, and that false sense of security, and then the floodgate, all things fall apart, you know.
They do.
And I learned that young, like at 12, like when I moved so many damn times. I went to so many different schools. It was really hard to like keep friends, and like never knew where I was gonna sleep or stay. So it's like I was kind of got comfortable in the uncomfortable early, and I watch people like have to deal with that in their 30s and 40s, and it's way harder. You know, I'm kind of like, thank God I went through the hell early, because it got me prepared for like the society and the wolves we live around, you know?
It helped us grow up faster.
Totally.
Right? And like, look at now, everything comes full circle, and all that suffering paid off, because look at where you're at now. Look at where we're both at in life now. And a lot of people probably watching this too, they're on the come up, and everybody is like working together, this sense of community, this thing you've built, you know, and skateboarding being the center point of it all, right? It's just amazing to see that. And if you and I could be some sort of inspiration to get people away from that darker side of life and look past it and be like, listen, it's not always going to be terrible. Because I know you and I both have friends, family that are still going through things, and if it just keeping our hand out for them is like, I think the most important. And with skateboarding, to bring it back in, is like, I think that having that middle ground for everybody to come to, and just for, you know, remove all the personal struggle for just a little bit, whether it's a 2-hour session or a 6-hour session or a weekend, you know. I think that is the most beneficial to help everybody grow as a collective, right?
Totally.
So
I mean, agree with that.
I'm all that suffering that we went through helped us become who we are today. And I think it's nice to express that and acknowledge it from time to time, and just be, you know, pay our respects to the fact that like some people didn't make it out and some people aren't going to make it out. But if we can have that tiny little bit of an influence to help somebody get out of that gutter, then I mean, that's the beauty of it all, right?
Yeah, man. And if you're in that gutter, just know, like, try to find something that makes you feel alive, like whatever it is, even if it's something as trivial as like a piece of wood and wheels, or painting, or something that people tell you not to do because there's not enough money in it. Like whatever it is, like if it makes you feel some sort of way about life that makes you want to propel forward and move forward, or keep pursuing something, like follow that. Even if it's just a little bit at a time, like just keep it in your life. Too many people bail on it, you know, like whether it's skating or whatever it is, music, whatever, you know, but don't hang. Those are the things that make you want to work, you know, like skating. I always knew I was fine once I found skating, because I knew like even if I got to get a job, like I'll want to work so that I can skate. You know what I mean? It's like I don't mind working a job if I know I can go skate on the weekends, or I have that my world that I can still do. It gives me purpose to go get that shitty job and like figure things out, you know. A lot of people are out there with no purpose or aim, you know, and that's when you're young too. It feels like the world's so overwhelming, because it is, you know, and you just focus on it. It's just a lot to deal with, and it's hard to think about 10 years in the future or 20 years in the future and where you might be, you know. Being young, man, I just remember being young and dealing with like a world that I didn't create, because that's what happens. You're born into a world that you didn't create, and you're just trying to figure things out. And the world seems so ass backwards, at least for me at the time. I was like, everything seems so fucking ass backwards. And you're trying to figure out who you are, and you just like, everything seems so heavy, and that it's never going to get better, and it's hard to think 10 years out,
especially when you're that young. You know?
Just know that that life can be long, and that can be a good thing. It takes time to figure out who you are, what you want to do, what you're aiming at, what you're made out of, who you are. It takes time to mature and figure all that out. But once you do, and you figure out what you're made out of, you can start to figure out how to aim that at building your future, and then you could have a long, beautiful future.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you can find something like skateboarding or whatever that helps you develop, could just through either if it helps you build a community, helps you develop personally, you know, thinking through tricks and pushing your boundaries and figuring out what you can do physically and mentally, like how strong,
pushing your left
are.
and right limits, right?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
So like, yeah, just try to find something that makes you feel alive, and if you hang on to that, it'll be with you forever.
And it'll take you somewhere spiritually too, in a weird way. You might not be religious at all, but like dealing with the traumas of life and using those traumas as a tool to learn from mistakes of yourself and others, but taking all of that and just running with that creative spark of whatever it may be is going to help you become a more grounded and well-aware person, right?
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people get hung up, and I did too, right? Like we all played a victim at some point. Like we all victimized ourselves and the people around us because we were like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is it only me? When it's 100% not just you. Yeah. Everybody has their bag of bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. We all have our the things that really bog us down in life. And the thing is about those things is you want to find a way to use it as motivation. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true. I took all of my hardships, and it started off subconsciously, and I take these hardships, and all of a sudden I was leveling up in life and doing something like, you know, better because of that. Like, oh, I don't want to do that again. I better not fucking do that. Like, you know, getting in trouble for, the party favors, right? For lack of a better term. And like doing that time and at 17, turning 18, doing time in jail was like, holy shit. I was like, I'm never going back.
That's definitely a sign you're on the wrong path.
100%, especially being in like a block where you're seeing like junkies, lifers in there, like dudes who are like waiting on trial for like murder and shit like that. And you're like, this is the end for me.
Yeah.
But like using that trauma and that hardship and just going, you know what, I'm going to bounce back tenfold. And taking it with you in everything that you do is the most important. And like, you know, you forgive yourself, but don't forget that what happened to get you to that point. You know?
That's an important thing, is to forgive yourself.
Yep.
Because it's your first time here, you know, or like you're the lights, camera, action, you're on, man. You're gonna make mistakes. Like that's how you're gonna grow. Is you're gonna fuck up, and then you're gonna learn. Like Josh was just saying, you're gonna remember and not repeat those mistakes. Hopefully, you know. And then you got to give yourself some grace at times, you know. It's
like with skateboarding, right? Remember, like I remember, for instance, and I
already forgave myself for pushing Mongo.
Right? Same. But you know, that's hilarious.
Sorry.
But you know, like you're trying to learn a kickflip, for instance, and like you're pointing your toe too much, and you keep doing it the wrong way, and you're like, why do I fucking can't do that? Why am I not doing this right?
Yeah.
And then you change it up just a little bit. You're like, well, I guess I'm pointing my toe too much, so I should probably bring it in a little bit and bring it up, and then it starts working. I mean, that's a metaphor for like anything, just
for life.
Retweak what you already have right there in front of you, and just if you move it just slightly, it's going to open a whole new door. You're going to access a different level of your life. Getting hung up on the moment, getting hung up on all of the bad things that's transpired is like a way of self-demise. And
it's easy to do that when you're young. I remember making a choice to be like, making the choice of like, fuck everything. I hate this all, wallow in pity and sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all justified. It always is, you know?
Yep.
It's like life sucks. It's like, yeah, no shit. We all die. Like everyone goes through hell, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But making that choice, going, no matter how shitty it is, like, I want to turn this around, which is so hard to do, especially when you're young. You feel like you're fighting the whole ocean current. The whole ocean's coming at you, and you're like, how do I turn this tide around? And it seems impossible, but what we're saying is it's not impossible.
No.
It just takes time, you know? You just got to build consistency and, like, build good patterns and have something you love in your life and don't let it go.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's
those
beautiful.
things.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like, you know, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay
Totally.
to say, you know what, I can't do this right now. Help me, right? And people are gonna lend a hand, especially in the community of skateboarding.
Totally.
100%. I've had friends over the years who drove over an hour to help me get to work, for instance, because my car broke down.
Yeah.
Just like in the military, the community you build in skateboarding is going to be there for you, and the ones that aren't there, they're just your acquaintances. They're just that somebody that you run into at a park, and you'll be able to pick that out, to know who is your people, and it's a lot broader than we think.
Yeah,
I get tunnel vision with it, right? And I think about all my younger years in skating, and I did drop sponsor me tapes, and I got turned down and laughed at a few times, and you know what, I woe is me did, right? And then all of a sudden I realized, why am I even upset about one or two people's perspective? And I moved on, and then 10 different doors opened up, and the community got larger and larger.
Yeah.
It's just be as present as you can, and don't get hung up on what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that we all are guilty of that at some point. But
Absolutely.
if you can realize it when you're younger, your life is going to skyrocket in the direction you want it to, because you can manipulate every aspect of your life. And people say all that cliche stuff of you can be whatever you want to be, but you can manipulate your life the way you want it to go.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing where those focal points are to manipulate it.
Yeah. A lot of it's hard because we get pulled in so many directions. We're fooled into thinking we need these things and that thing, and we need to be this person and that and all these things. And you need to look within and kind of see what drives you. Try to pay attention. Like you're saying, be focused is real. Be present. Be focused is a hard thing for us, especially nowadays with the phones and the connection of everything out there. You can just find vices left and right to pay attention to. But you really got to have some silence and turn off the senses for a while and kind of allow your own thoughts to come through.
Yep.
And that's hard. It's really, really hard nowadays. But those thoughts and those inner feelings are going to guide you to where you need to be. And you're a unique individual. I'm a unique person, and I have my own story and path, and it's no one else's.
Yep.
If you ignore that, then life is going to blow you every which way, and you're going to miss what you're supposed to be doing.
Agreed.
And a lot of times we're fooled by celebrities and fucking whoever.
Well, I mean, ultimately, man, I know you got to get to your baby, your little man and everything. But
Wilder boy!
Honestly, I appreciate you having me. And seriously, it's good to catch up. It's good to finally do this. And
we've always seen each other and skated together, but I don't think we really sat down and chopped it up for an hour.
Well, you know how it gets, especially at parks. You're so wrapped up in trying to get the session in that you're okay, sometimes I just want to go. And I have ADD with skateboarding, so I just want to go until I pass out when I'm there.
I love people like that, because when I'm there, it's let's just skate. That's our language.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, we couldn't have had a better conversation today, and I hope that you and I get to do this again soon.
100% we'll do this again. You're coming back on. You're in the fold, my friend.
Hell yeah.
Josh, thanks for everything. Thanks for loving skateboarding like me and everyone else out there, because they do. And we'll do it again.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, later, Josh. Hell yeah. Yo, and keep your head up out there. Whoever's out there, if you're young and trying to find your way, just it's amazing what we can survive, and then you can, once you're past survival, you can build on that, and then life can get sweeter and sweeter. But it does take hard work, discipline, focus. It's not going to be free and easy, regardless of what the society and country tells you. Do you feel that way? I felt like this country said it was going to be free and easy to everyone. You're all going to be millionaires.
Everything's at your fingertips.
Yeah,
right?
and it's just going to happen overnight over nothing. And it's no, you're going to have to build your dream. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to stay focused. You're going to have to build your character and who you are. You're going to have to expand beyond what you are.
Yes.
It's not going to be given to you.
Yep.
If it was easy, you wouldn't even want it.
Exactly.
Free and easy, because it just fades.
The instant gratification. Just remember, separate yourself from what's thrown in our face, and just enjoy, living your life and growing. And don't ever hesitate to ask one of us older guys, we're there to offer any advice or lend a hand,
Hell yeah.
So, appreciate it, Anthony.
Till next time, my friends. Beep, beep, beep.